Welcome back, guys, to Bald Father Bets. So want to talk to you guys a little bit about some of the very early things that we're looking at in college football in the 2025 season. But first, please subscribe to the channel, notifications on, like, share, comment on this video, anything that you guys can do to help us with that YouTube algorithm. Very much appreciated. Had a great year in 2024. Made it really profitable for our base, and we want to expand that. We want to get that out to as many people as possible. Want to share the wealth, as you would say. So 2025 college football season upcoming. I'm going to kind of give you guys my preseason top 5 in terms of what I'm looking at, and then how that plays into, over-unders for the season, national title odds coming up, any early lines for that week 1 slate, anything like that. So my preseason top 5 is a little bit different, I think, than what you're seeing a lot in the national media. So I have Penn State number 1. And the reason I have Penn State number 1 has a lot to do with the formula that they're following, the 2023 Michigan, 2024 Ohio State followed, and that they got a lot of their returning production to come back for this last year rather than go to the NFL. So Allen and Singleton back, Drew Aller, who I'm a big believer will be, come next April, obviously not this April, will be round 1, pick 1 in the NFL draft. And then the biggest acquisition that anyone got this offseason, which is Jim Knowles on the defensive side. Best coordinator on either side of the ball in college football. Best coordinator on either side of the ball in college football in quite a while. At minimum, at least since Dan Lanning was at Georgia. And with Anil Kotelnicki and Jim Knowles on the defense and offensive coordinator side, you have the best combo of coordinators in college football. So they're my preseason number 1. That doesn't necessarily mean I think they're going to win the national title. I don't think they have the highest ceiling out of any team, but I think they probably have the lowest floor of any team. And I think right now they deserve to be preseason number 1. The one that then is pretty shocking is I actually have Clemson at 2. I think Clemson is phenomenal. I think I've always been a Cade Klubnik fan. You guys have known that. I think ultimately Cade Klubnik will be more successful than Cam Ward will be in the NFL. I thought Cade was a better quarterback this year. I think Clemson has an exceptional defensive line. They've figured out the wide receiver position, and those wide receivers who were giving them the most production last year were true freshmen, so they're coming back as sophomores. I think they're going to have a great offensive line, and I think the running game will take care of itself when it comes to Garrett Riley and that offensive line. So I'm not concerned about the Phil Maffa loss at the running back position. Really, what it comes down to for them is, can they finally marry the talent on defense with what they're doing from a coaching scheme ever since Venables left? It's been a big hole for them to fill since Venables left. They haven't necessarily done it correctly. And is this the year where they finally make that jump? Then at 3 and 4, and these are very close to being interchangeable, but just due to a little bit more experience at quarterback for the team I have at 3, I'm putting them 3 and the other one at 4. These are the 2 teams which I believe have the most, the highest ceiling. They shouldn't be 1 or 2 just based off of how much they lost, but they have the highest ceiling. That's Texas at 3, Ohio State at 4. And funny enough, they play each other week 1, and we're going to talk about that here in a little bit. Obviously, Texas has Arch, whereas Ohio State has Julian Sand. We've seen Arch a little bit more. I think both these teams are going to be good on defense. I think Texas has a chance to be the best defense in the country, along with Penn State. I think that you're going to see some deep balls from Texas this year with Arch. They like the deep ball. And then obviously with Ohio State, we have a non-negotiable in terms of their wide receiver room. There's an argument that Ohio State has the 2 best players in the country. I do believe Caleb Downs is the best player in the country, and I think you can easily make the argument that Jeremiah Smith is that 2nd best player. So Ohio State's loaded in terms of talent, and what a weekend we have, Labor Day weekend, because they're going to face each other in Columbus, actually. Then at 5, I have Oregon, and I know some people have Notre Dame there, some people have Georgia there. I have Oregon right now. I like Dante Moore. I like Lanning. The big question for me with Oregon is, all season long I told you guys I thought their defense was not legit. Ultimately, in the final game, it showed that, hey, it really wasn't. are they finally able to kind of fix that side of the ball, which I have faith that Lanning can get it done because he's such a defensive wizard. So that's where I round out my top 5. And then the other team that I have outside the top 5, who I think has the highest ceiling, is Georgia. Kirby Smart and that program's a proven thing. They have all the talent in the world. I would imagine you're going to see an angry Georgia coming into this season. I thought you'd see a bit of an angrier Georgia coming into last season, given that they felt like they were the best team. It just came up short against Alabama and Atlanta in the SEC championship game. Didn't quite see that as much as I thought, but I feel like coming into this next year, you will see an angry Georgia team. So then, what does that? What am I looking at then in terms of futures? A couple of things. I think the Penn State, Clemson, and Texas overs are something you should look at. The Texas one I really like because it's at 9.5. So essentially, what they're saying is, do you think at Florida, at Georgia, at Ohio State, Texas loses all of those games, or do you think they go 1 and 2 of those games and then drop another game somewhere else? And we're going to get into this one next. I don't think Texas will lose all those games or go 1 and 2 in those. And I actually think they'll end up going 2 and 1 in those games, and then potentially drop another game somewhere else. I do think Oklahoma is going to be a lot better this upcoming year, but I don't see them losing all 3 of them. I just think the team is too talented and the defense will be too good. And with that, we are making our first pick of the year for 2025. We are taking Texas plus the 4 against Ohio State, and we're doing that for 10 units. I very, very rarely make any sort of play like this preseason or even a 10-unit play week 1 of the year, but I have a feeling that Texas will be favored in that game when they kick off. Sharps are going to look at that, and they're not really going to let that line stand, just based on what's being brought back and then the coaching changes that Ohio State are going through. So Texas plus the 4 against Ohio State, 10 units, book it, stamp it. It's our first pick of the 2025 football season. Then when I'm looking at Clemson, that ACC is just so weak. Like them in terms of to win the ACC championship, like a ticket on them for the national title, as well as I like a ticket on Penn State for the national title. I don't think you're getting as good a value right now on Texas and Ohio State for tickets for the national title. But if you want to sprinkle some cash for a ticket for the national title, I like the Clemson and the Penn State tickets quite a bit. Clemson I love. The odds you're getting right now is phenomenal, and I think you won't get them for very long when people start to see them play and kind of see how good that team is this upcoming season. Then outside of that, I think Oregon is worth a ticket to win the Big Ten. They're going to be behind Ohio State in the odds to win the Big Ten, and I think that they're the reigning Big Ten champs. Those teams don't play each other this season, so upcoming, probably the first time they would meet would be in the Big Ten championship game. But I think they're worth a sprinkle in terms of the money that you're getting. And then also when you look out at the Big 12, you can really kind of pick your poison, but you have a lot of variance in the Big 12, which means that you're getting a lot of teams at plus money that have a chance. I mean, Arizona State was picked last in the conference this past year, and they won the Big 12. So imagine if you had an Arizona State ticket to start the season. So when you're looking at sprinkles for huge amounts of high returns, the Big 12, in my opinion, is where you look, because you don't have any sort of true elite dominant programs there, which means any year you can have an Arizona State situation. So kind of pick your poison when it comes to the Big 12. You get a good opportunity there for plus money on your returns. And then the last one, Georgia. Georgia to win the SEC, Georgia over, Georgia win the national title. Like I said, at this point, how can you really not trust Kirby Smart in that program? And they won the SEC this year, given maybe the most difficult schedule I've ever seen in college football. It's going to be hard again this upcoming season, but they get more of those difficult games at home. So I trust Georgia here for sure. And I think a lot of people are forgetting that, okay, yeah, they lost to Notre Dame, but they gave up 17 points in 60 seconds, and they did that with a backup quarterback. So people kind of writing Georgia off, I think, a little early, along with the downfall of the South when it comes to college football. That's it for a very, very early preview. we will be back at you guys again throughout the off season with more stuff with regards to these college football lines, over-unders, specific teams, conference winners, things that we like, things that we're fading. But just wanted to give you kind of the early thoughts on the off season. Appreciate it, guys. Again, please help support the channel. Really good year this past year. If you're a $100 bettor, we netted a profit of $11,280. So just solid all around. But really appreciate it. Appreciate the support. Love the interaction with you guys. Please enjoy your Sunday.